Hello everybody. I thought I would do a discussion video on Beowulf. I read Beowulf at the end of January and thoroughly enjoyed it, but there's a little more to Beowulf than just the average story. I thought, what better way to cover Beowulf than with a discussion video. This will include spoilers, so if that bothers you with Beowulf, then sorry. But since this story has been around for thousands of years, I thought if you don't know the spoilers now, then good job. So what is Beowulf? Beowulf is not a novel. It is an epic poem by the Anglo-Saxons. This is a very specific type of writing which has three key features. Those features are the broken back line, which has two phrases in each line that are split in between them. The second feature is each phrase in the line has two stresses and as many unstressed syllables as it wants. You may be familiar with this type of poetry from Shakespeare, which is iambic pentameter, but in Anglo-Saxon poetry it does not matter how many unstressed syllables you have, as long as you have two stressed per phrase. The third feature of Anglo-Saxon poetry is the alliteration pattern. In each line, the first stressed part of the phrase is always alliterative. The second part is sometimes, the third is also sometimes, and the last stressed is never alliterative. Now, the story of Beowulf as a whole kind of happens in three parts, though some critics argue that it is two parts. These parts are the battle with Grendel, the battle with Grendel's mother, and the battle with the dragon. Now, Beowulf begins with their history and how they got there. And it all started with Scyld Skelfing. I probably totally said that wrong. Oh man. He is the earliest ancestor that is talked about in Beowulf. He is the ancestor of Hrothgar. Hrothgar is the king of the Danes, which is the kingdom that is getting attacked by Grendel. And he built Heorot Hall, the biggest building that these people know, which, as far as we know, it's not like the skyscrapers we know or anything. Now, Grendel himself, we don't know a whole lot about him. We just know that he's coming and destroying everything that the Danes have built, and they need Beowulf's help. Grendel is a monster of sorts. He has these big claws that we know of, because Beowulf rips one of his arms off, and that is how he is defeated. He has impenetrable skin like steel, so no swords or axes, anything can cut him. To use man's strength, and he is massive. He takes 30 men with one foul swoop. He comes from Cain's clan, and if you are aware of the story of Cain and Abel, this is who we're talking about. He is the descent of evil. So, in other words, he's big, bad, nasty, and he wants to destroy everything. So when Beowulf comes, it's a big deal. When they go into battle, they are expecting to lose, because they have been for a very long time. In the end of the first battle, Beowulf comes out victorious, and they have a big grand feast. So Grendel goes home dying from the loss of a limb to his mother, and dies there. His mother is not too happy about this, so she comes angry and ready for revenge. Now, our second battle is with Grendel's mother herself. In order to get to Grendel's mother, Beowulf must go down into the deep depths of this great lake. And at the very bottom is the cavern. Beowulf swims all the way down, which, according to the writing, it took him the better part of a day. Just swimming. That's nuts. And when he gets down there, he had brought a sword called Hrunting from Unferth, who originally was not too sure about Beowulf and wasn't his biggest fan. But after the Battle of Grendel, he comes around and gives this family sword called Hrunting, so that Beowulf can kill Grendel's mother. Now, the battle with Grendel's mother, Beowulf isn't able to use Hrunting effectively and does nothing. While he's down there, he sees another sword, and he grabs the sword as he's about to face his doom. He stabs her with the sword, and it works. The sword actually melts, and he's left with only a hilt. She's dead. Grendel is also there, and then he chops off Grendel's head and brings it back up from the lake. You could say that Beowulf is very strong. He holds a head, like a giant head, and swims it back up to the surface. The final part of Beowulf is the story of the fight with the dragon. In between the fight of Grendel's mother and the dragon, you have a 50-year gap. In this gap, Beowulf's lord, Hygelac, has died, and his son has also died. So Beowulf becomes king. He is a great king, and he rules and keeps everybody in peace. Beowulf does not have an heir, and he is old now. But this dragon comes along, and he has been woken and is terrorizing everything. So Beowulf does not have a choice but to go fight this dragon. Now, in this fight, Beowulf doesn't look like he's going to win. His retaining men abandon him, except for one whose name is Wiglaf, and he stays by Beowulf's side. He's the only reason that the dragon actually gets defeated, because Beowulf is injured, so it's actually Wiglaf who is able to defeat the dragon. Woo, Wiglaf! Unfortunately, however, Beowulf was the only reason that the Geats, which is Beowulf's people, were in peace for these 50 years. And with his death, they've become doomed. There's no one left to protect them. The first two parts, Battle of Grendel and Battle of Grendel's mother, and the Battle of the Dragon, are separated by 50 years. This gap is very important. The first battles are to protect the Danes, and they are largely connected to each other. They were family. Beowulf's final battle against the dragons is to protect his own people. It is as king and not just a guy sent by his lord. And when fighting other people's battles, he is massively celebrated with a feast afterwards, and his men never leave his side. Even when he goes down to the deepest depths, his men stay right at the surface. During the Battle of the Dragon, his men desert him besides one, and this battle leads to his downfall, and there's no celebration afterwards. This 50-year gap successfully is able to separate the first two battles from the very last. The first two battles show a story of bravery and chivalry from a man and shows loyalty among the tribe. The last battle is a story of an individual and his downfall, which in turn was a downfall of his entire people. Now, J.R.R. Tolkien was a big fan of Beowulf, though he didn't look at it as an epic, but more of an elegy. And if you don't know what an elegy is, it is a lament for a lass. This is particularly apparent when looking at the last part of Beowulf, after Beowulf's defeat and his funeral. Beowulf was the Geats' main line of defense against many other tribes that were in the area, and they were enemies. Now the Geats are extremely vulnerable, and their ultimate defeat is inevitable. Beowulf is the one who has been lost, but due to his death, soon the Geats will be lost as well. Beowulf as a story is more of a lament than just a story about an epic man and his many battles. So when you think about it that way, it's really quite depressing. It's this loss of an entire people that we don't have anymore. So in that part, Beowulf's kind of true. Maybe not all the ridiculous battles, but the general sense of the story. Now, for those who have read Beowulf, what are your thoughts? Please leave them down below. I personally enjoyed Beowulf, and I thought it was a very inspiring story, and may not have been all that realistic, but hey, that happens. If you've not read Beowulf, but you stuck around anyway, thanks for watching. If you have anything to say, I'd love to hear it. If anyone would like to make a response video, that'd be cool too. If you'd like to see me other places, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and I also have a blog. It's not super updated, but I'm trying. Have something in mind to go along with this video, but I wanted this video up first before I posted that. So, I will see you in another video soon. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye!